just want to start off by introducing myself. My name is Tyler. I go by Tiberius on Discord. We're part of the Northern California MESBG group, located here in Sacramento, but we're covering the whole state. Tonight, we're going to specifically talk about how faction breakdown is for the Sacramento region and what armies people are playing. We have good, evil, and there's so many factions. So just it'll be interesting to see, how those all break out, what people are gravitating towards, and maybe some reasons why.
I'm Jared. Go by Jared on the Discord. Very creative. Yeah, it'll be cool to look at kind of the breakdown of the different factions we have in our local group. Tyler was cool enough to put together a survey so we could kind of collect all this data. And so it'll be neat to look at it all and just kind of see the breakdown for our community, but maybe that'll be interesting for other people too, for their own communities, or, maybe they're trying to build a group themselves. I think it's interesting to say that how long do you think it's been that we've really been playing, right? Like, I think
I would say it started, some people want to say March of this year, but I would say closer to May, when we really put the Discord together, and that's when it really started ramping up. So yeah, May of this year.
I think one thing before we start too that I think would be cool too would be what armies do you have?
Oh, what armies do I have?
Yeah.
So I am born in 1989, so I have been it's been ingrained into me that I gotta collect them all, Pokemon style.
I didn't know you were older than me.
Yeah, dude. I'm 34.
So I'm 92. So
yeah,
I'm like
yeah. So I think that comes across in a lot of things I do, but I gotta just get all of them. Love Lord of the Rings anyways, so I have no problem doing it. The ones that I mainly have that are painted, let's just go with the painted because that's what makes it to the table. Angmar is probably my main army. I have Dead of Dunharrow painted up. Got some Eagles painted up. I've got enough to say I can run a Mordor army. A lot of carryover between Mordor and Angmar, so there's a little bit of double dip there. And then currently working on painting up Minas Tirith, and I'm trying to think if I got anything else really. I have some Lothlorien painted up. Can't take credit for that myself. That just happened to be bought and it was already painted.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so can't really take the credit for that one, but it's playable. Beautifully done, actually, whoever did it. In regards to the rest of the armies, yeah, I pretty much have everything. Almost there. I don't have Smog yet, but I feel pretty confident that I can field, 500 points of just about everything, with some small exceptions. But yeah, I think this game is very fun in the sense that it's very diverse, a lot of factions. And as we continue to grow, I think it's just cool to have, if one of our players in our community want to play against something or practice against something, I wanted to be able to have that there for them. So just, yeah.
I like that too. I think that's a really cool part about our community is it seems like, when we dive into the numbers, it'll really show, but I think like the faction diversity is pretty good. I think we have a lot of guys who have a similar kind of mindset there.
Yeah.
About like wanting to be able to bring something different to game nights a lot. So for myself, what I have, the first thing I collected was Lothlorien. So that I think I have the most of. I can play, up to probably like 800 points painted of Lothlorien. I've got Farharad. That I could probably only play up to like 600 points, maybe 650 at this point painted. I have more that I have to work on, but it's kind of like, I don't know, I've been dragging on finishing them up.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll get those going soon. I have Mordor, which has been my most recent project, which is pretty fun. I've been trying to get everything I have painted before I buy more Mordor stuff just because the faction is so huge that
Very
I could go super overboard with it.
All right, cool. Well,
Sweet.
let's jump into the, you can go ahead and share your screen. We'll get into the breakdown. So we'll do a quick dive in here to what we're looking at for the good side. Good armies, good factions, some things that stick out right off the bat. Our biggest, most prominent army is Minas Tirith, with 9 players playing that one. We have Rohan at 6 and the Dead of Dunharrow at 5. So anything from those sticking out to you, Jared, or maybe factors as to why those are so high?
Yeah, it's interesting because it seems like Minas Tirith and Rohan kind of seem like they'd be obvious ones to me just because the battle hosts. Dead of Dunharrow is like slightly interesting to me that would be so high, but maybe because you get a little bit of that in the old what was it like? Was it Pelennor Fields box? So maybe that's that. Also, maybe because it's so easy to paint, I can see that being appealing. Like, I was tempted to do it because I was like, I could knock that out pretty quick.
That was me.
Yeah. One thing that's kind of interesting to me is like Wildmen. I think I've never even looked at that faction. For some reason, I just assumed Wildmen was like the guys that ally in with Isengard. Is that different?
Yeah, the Wildmen of Druadan are like a small faction of, I don't know if you want to call them like a pygmy race that lives in the jungle, the forest, not the jungle, the forest. And they're most known for helping Rohan take kind of like a back route around where the Mordor blockade was, so that Theoden could lead that huge charge onto the Pelennor Fields. Otherwise, he would have got held up by Mordor's counterforce.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So kind of help them navigate. There's even a legendary legion with them, and Theoden and stuff, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I do have that army, even though it's shown as a 0 on here. I do have that one. And then the other 0 that we're seeing on here is the Shire. So for Sacramento's region, I'm not familiar with anyone that plays the Shire, but I do know one of our buddies down in the Bay Area, Oscar. He brought that to the 600-point tournament. I think he had over 70 hobbits running around. And then Arnor, an army that's really tough to get your hands on because I think the whole army is OOP now.
Yeah.
But we do have some guys that 3D print in our group, and when things are OOP, you kind of just gotta make do with what you can get your hands on.
I'm tempted to pick up a 3D printed Arnor. Just I think they have a pretty cool little vibe. Super limited, of course, but I like the wizard who gives the 5-up bubble.
Yeah, Malbeth the Seer.
Yeah, that's pretty neat. I mean, imagine with that when you hit the 5-up and you kill someone's heroic combat.
That's what I'm saying.
Or you stop their impact hits, you stop their chariots.
Yeah,
that's kind of cool.
So I actually just played against Arnor in this last tournament we had, and as playing as an Angmar player, they all have hatred of Angmar, so wounding was very easy. They outfought me at every fight, so I had to just play the objective. And
did the terror help though? Because they're really low courage, right?
They're really low courage, but like you're talking about that Malbeth Seer, the Seer bubble, their main guy Arvidui, the king, he gives a 6-inch pass all courage checks bubble.
Oh, I see. Okay. I didn't know that.
So they're very anti Angmar.
Okay.
Yeah. So Fell Specters, the Deadmar Specters aren't doing anything. They walk right up to Gulavar, no problem. So yeah, that was a fun one. But going back to the factions here.
Yeah.
It seems like there are some ones that are kind of carrying the weight here. A lot of the races of men, I would say, are pretty heavy.
Yeah.
With Rohan and Minas Tirith being 15. Trying to think what else we're seeing here. Dwarves aren't really coming up too much in our group. I think they're a little more sprinkled in with Iron Hills and Khazad-dûm. I know that Johnny plays Army of Thror, but he's kind of, that's just him. I don't think anyone else is fielding that.
Yeah, I like when I've played against it, I feel like that's a really cool list.
Yeah. I think what's the other one? Airborne Reclaimed is another way to play dwarves. So there's like four or five different ways you can get the dwarves on the board, but
yeah,
I wouldn't say they're very frequented up in Sacramento right now.
Mm-hmm.
And then elves, I think we see a decent amount of elves, similar probably to the dwarves, right?
Mm-hmm.
People are playing them, but they're not coming up as often as the men. I think what we have Lothlorien as 4 up here. Where's Rivendell? Rivendell's also at 4. In regards to why we're seeing certain factions being played more than others, I think the first thing you hit on the head was, okay, what's in the starter boxes, right? So Pelennor Fields, Battle for Osgiliath, those two things are kind of leading the way here into what we're seeing, right? So if you picked up the starter kit, the most recent one, you're playing Minas Tirith, right? You're getting that at least.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you did the Pelennor Fields one, you got Rohan, and you would have the Dead of Dunharrow, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Like a direct correlation between like the scarcity of the models for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you can also see like some are just hard to get your hands on. So, that's why Arnor's showing a 0 and Druaden's showing a 0. They're popping up a little more now, but since we took the poll to now, but yeah, I think look at the Shire, not listed. Well, they're all metal, and you have to get 1,000 of them.
Yeah.
So
I think like for me, there's I'm sure some people obviously love the playstyle, but I feel like moving like 70 hobbits seems like just not ideal to me, especially in like a tournament or like a timed environment.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's just my thought. I'm sure there's people out there who love it, or like Goblin Town or stuff like that, but I don't know.
You just the player is experienced enough to play pretty quick. Not make it a hindrance on and still everyone gets to enjoy the game.
Okay.
All right, so now we're gonna check out the evil side. Looks like we're at 52 total here. I think we were around 58 for good. So not too big of a discrepancy there. It seems like we're finding some pretty good balance between the two, good and evil sides of the coin. But this army over here, the way this faction breaks down, it is heavy on the Mordor side, with 14 there. And then anybody that's ever snagged up Sauron can say they played Barad-dûr. So those two kind of similar. And then I think the next one that's standing out is Isengard.
Yep. Going back to those battle hosts again, I think it'd be interesting to see, if GW eventually puts out more battle host kind of options. Obviously, right now there's not really other good options for them to do following the same format, so we might be locked in on just those 4 for some time. But it'd be kind of cool to see.
Yeah, I mean, I think that would be a good question for the comments, right? Kind of what people are interested in seeing as far as a battle host. I think you could do one with maybe the goblins, Moria. Doesn't seem
I would really like that, honestly, if they could do some goblins with like a Balrog or something.
Yeah, I don't know if they would allow for the Balrog to be in the battle host, but maybe you could get one of the goblin heroes in there, one or I think that's how they
that makes sense. It's kind of too expensive, huh?
Yeah.
Price wise.
Like you don't have Boromir in there or Elisar for the Minas Tirith one,
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think the goblins could be a good one. I wouldn't be, they could do an Easterlings, honestly, battle host. They could do one of the other ones I was thinking on the good side, was like dwarves. Like dwarves, get Cause of Doom in there or something like that, right?
Yeah, I think everyone's kind of got their fingers crossed that maybe they'd do a new like Last Alliance box set or something and give us some new plastics of those.
Yeah,
That'd
yeah,
be sweet to see. Whether that's in like Battle Host or the 2-player box, that'd be cool too.
yeah, yeah. So I think what we're gonna see here with the evil faction, is less known armies, ones that got less screen time in the game or in the movies,
Yeah.
uh, or you have some guys that read the books, but you're going to either have screen time and unfamiliarity with it, or you're going to have a issue of scarcity of models and hard to get.
Yeah.
Um, so if you look here, we're seeing heavy Mordor, heavy Isengard. Okay, not surprising with some Vardor. But then after that, everything kind of falls off into that 3 range. I guess you have Moria in there at 5.
Yeah.
Pretty popular one, right? Like we're saying, also like way back in the day, starter sets was having a lot of goblins. You throw a Balrog and boom, you're playing, right? 500 points, it's pretty quick.
Yeah. I'd like to do Moria eventually too, honestly. Just it seems like the variety in the army list is pretty cool with all the monsters.
Yeah. Yeah. We don't always see it played, all those different ways, but I know Kevin Reed plays with the Cave Drake, and then Nathan plays with the Balrog, and you can play it quite a few different ways. But yeah, then look at this list. So there's certain ones that no one's playing, right? So you got no one playing Sharky's Rogues. That shouldn't be surprising.
Yeah.
That's a rough faction.
Yep.
Desolator of the North, no one's pulled out Smog. You got Kond, and that's just, I think, an army that I think actually kind of is available, but is more of a, like I mentioned before, not getting any screen time makes it a less desirable faction to go after. When you're thinking Lord of the Rings, I guess you're not thinking of them, right? So you'd have to be diving in pretty deep into MESBG to get one of those.
It's a deep cut for sure, but just as far as the rules go, it does look pretty interesting to me with all the chariots and
Yeah.
like samurai type vibe almost.
Yeah, the creators of the game do a good job of making every faction unique and bring, some different aspect and fun to the game.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think I agree with you on that. What else are you seeing here on the list?
Yeah, I think kind of like just mirroring what you said, with Mordor being so prominent, it seems like we get a lot of I'm kind of surprised that we don't see more like higher numbers on Angmar or Barad-dûr, since there's so much Mordor, it's kind of easy to cross over with just a few more purchases.
Right.
So that's kind of interesting. I don't know. I think just all the kind of things that we've already mentioned, really, about just like the scarcity of things, and like the battle hosts, it's kind of like the more easily accessible and easier to find product is just the stuff that we see more.
Right.
Obviously with the guys with the 3D printers, maybe we can get some of these offshoots, their numbers higher.
I think one thing I would say here is you mentioned why you're not seeing more Angmar. I think with Angmar, I think I honestly just lucked out. I was able to find some of the really tough, rare models on eBay, and got those. And I think that's kind of what drove me towards playing it, because I was like, well, now that I realize how rare a Gulavar is, then I can bring that to the group and everyone can get experience against it and, try it out.
He's the enemy of the group.
He's not,
Everyone's got their horror stories.
Yeah. But I think actually we do a pretty good job of touching, at least I would say, all these different armies. The 3 of Serpent Horde, 3 of Goblin Town, 3 of Farharad, 3 Easterlings. I think that's encouraging. Those numbers are, those aren't exactly the most common outside of the Easterlings. I know they're a big deal right now, but
Yeah.
uh, those three, they're not listed. We're getting some representation there. I'm surprised Dark Denizens of Mirkwood aren't a little higher, because I know people like to run the spiders and all the different, Spider Queen. I haven't seen that on a board yet, but that would be cool. Final thoughts?
I guess my initial thought for after looking at all the numbers is just it seems like we have a ton of army representation that's pretty much built up in a pretty short span of time. So that's cool to see. Even though I
Yeah.
know Nathan has he's contributing heavily to that,
Yep. For
but
sure.
but still, it's cool to see. And I think that this game really encourages like branching out into multiple armies.
Yeah.
So I think we're seeing a lot of that, which is it's cool to be able to not always be playing against the same thing. I think
Yeah.
that that's really good for the community in general.
Yeah.
Just that variety.
Yeah, people have, and it seems like a lot of people have at least one or two armies, right? So there's some, and we're getting a lot of newer players that are just playing, either Minas Tirith or Mordor to start off, but I'm sure they have their eyes set on different things, and putting something out like this isn't just for, whoever's watching the video, but for our internal group. It's for guys to be able to see, oh yeah, look, no one's playing that. Maybe I want to try something out different than no one else is playing, right?
Yeah,
Maybe only one person's playing Azog's Legion. Maybe I'll get into that. Um,
that's a really good point. I think that's a cool thing to kind of be able to see and be able to like fill the gaps.
yeah,
I mean, I'm already thinking that too, looking at the numbers. I'm like, oh, what's my next army I'm gonna pick up gonna be?
right. Yeah, like the Corsairs aren't written on there as notched, but I know you mentioned Mike might be working on those. But his rule is if it's not painted, it doesn't count. So I do get why it's not on our list. But yeah, also I wanted to note on one thing we didn't touch on, and no one, hopefully no one comments on it. But we didn't have the Bjornings on there, and I think it's because they're like weirdly they're like a faction under the Misty Mountains or something like that. They're not
Oh,
their
really?
own faction. I think, yeah,
Interesting.
it's weird. They're not even on the Alliance Matrix. So I don't know, I have enough experience with them. I've never played them, and I know they're not really in our group. So
Yeah, I've only really seen them on battle reports, so yeah, I don't even know how the structure works. But the low model count really like makes me think like, oh, I got to pick that up at some point. I
yeah,
could think like 14 models and have an army ready to go.
right, yeah. No, I think I think we did have Misty Mountains on there, but it could be they have the guy has Gwahir. I have Gwahir and another Eagle, or Radagast Alliance. You get Radagast and a couple Eagles, and you're considering that army is
Yeah,
playable. Um, so yeah, I think this will be cool to see how our group expands. This is, I would say, a 6 month mark of our group, less than, but right around there. And
yeah,
then maybe we'll come back here in another 6 months and see how it's expanded, and what factions are holding strong. I think with our group being so new
yeah,
and a lot of new players coming on, you're going to see those battle host ones like you mentioned, and those more popular armies, accessible ones, kind of lead the pack. But I think I won't be surprised if in another 6 months or a year the numbers kind of start floating towards a little more even across the board even. All right, man. Well, good talk. Glad we got to
yeah,
break it down a little bit. Looking forward to seeing what people's feedback is, and then hopefully we can get some more battle reports in soon.
yeah, absolutely.